Okay, be honest. Who saw that coming? Texas A&M 41, Alabama 38. We bring in Andrew Hattersley as we do each and every week to talk Texas A&M football here at the Voice of College Football. Andrew, how you doing today?
Good. I said last week there'd be better days ahead, right? At the end for A&M fans, I said it would be at some point. I didn't expect it to be Saturday night, but that was really quite something and quite a response by Texas A&M. And they got to 4-2 just like we all expected, right after the Arkansas game.
Well, pretty much what was tabbed as one of the most important games of the season during the entire offseason. That was one of the games that most people talked about more than just about any other across the country, then turned into a game that people dismissed, including myself to a certain extent, just kind of unconsciously dismissed as an Alabama win leading up to the game, became this classic. So, Andrew, how did they do it?
Well, it was quite a response by A&M, and they really, quite frankly, did all the things that we kind of talked about in the weeks leading up that they needed to do. The offensive line probably played their best game of the year. Didn't allow any sacks, which if you had told me going into the game that they were going to hold Alabama without a sack, I probably would have told you were crazy. They got off to a good run in the ball, which I thought was key because it just allowed, and we saw what happened in the second half when this didn't happen, but it just kept them in the manageable down and distances, and you didn't really force Zach Calzada into a lot of uncomfortable situations. So he could settle into the game, and he just seemed like a different quarterback. He seemed more confident, more decisive, especially in the first half. Getting the running game going was huge, and then you had to catch a couple breaks, and you had to force a couple turnovers, and they did that on the one exchange between Bryce Young and Brian Robinson, and got a fumble off of that. Damani Richardson held him out of the end zone on another interception, and I think that really gave them a lot of confidence too, and they were able to get pressure on Bryce Young. And force him to be a little more uncomfortable than I think he had been in other games. And then defensively, I thought their red zone defense in the second half was huge, holding Alabama after two long drives to a couple of field goals to even keep a 31-30 game, just to preserve that lead because the defense was absolutely gassed. I think at one point Alabama had run like 28 plays to A&M's 13 in the second half or some crazy statistic like that. And so just A&M's defense stepped up, even though they gave up 38 points, stepped up, got timely stops, timely turnovers. And they just did what they needed to do and had things come together.
Please like the video, share these videos out on social media, because if you enjoy the content, others will as well. And subscribe right here at the Voice of College Football. Andrew Hattersley on the line from Gig'em 247. Of course, Texas A&M. If you're not aware, Texas A&M beat Alabama Saturday night, 41-38. You made a comment before we started to record, Andrew. I said the same thing a number of times to people calling in the call-in show after the game, was that once Texas A&M jumped out by 10, I think that's the biggest lead they had, 17-7, 24-14, 24-10. So they had a 14-point lead, 24-10 at halftime. That once Alabama caught them and passed them at 38-31, I thought, not that I thought it was impossible. It was a one-score game, but it had the feel Alabama scored 21 straight points here. They were the big favorite. They've taken the surge of momentum out of the game. The crowd, they've taken the lead. Good effort by Texas A&M. Good effort to build on. But this game's over. Alabama's taken it. So the really impressive thing was blowing a 2-touchdown lead, being down by a score, and having to score back-to-back, get the stop in between, and win the game.
Yeah, it was super impressive. And to that point, I mean, just looking at what they had done offensively, they hadn't got anything going since basically halftime. They just really had kind of gone stagnant on offense. Couldn't pick up first downs, which was putting their defense right back on the field over and over and over again. And then with their backs against the wall, they come up with a great drive. finish it off with a great throw from Zach Calzada to Anais Smith. And what really impressed me about that touchdown throw was the way he stood in there. He obviously had a defender roll into his knee, but he stood in there knowing he was going to take a hit and delivered a great ball. And I thought that was a really, really impressive drive, just with their backs against the wall. And the ending of this game, I think for a lot of A&M fans, felt a little bit – the fourth quarter in general felt a little bit like Florida last year, and the punches that they took from Florida late in the game, and some of the key throws that Kellen Mond made late in that game. And I think that the crazy part about it is, it's 38-38. Defense comes up with a big stop, just as it did last year against Florida, forced the fumble. Offense goes right down and sets up a short field goal for Seth Small. It just had an eerily similar feeling both times that they picked up a huge win, and it was 1 day apart, actually. One day's difference between the Florida and Alabama game. But, just a huge credit because, all the momentum in the second half was most certainly with Alabama, and to come back and tie that game back up and take the lead was really impressive.
And the same score, right?
Same score too. Yep.
Yeah, it was 41-38.
Yeah, 41-38, and almost a year to the day of that game, and it was just eerily similar when I looked at the fourth quarter. And obviously they didn't force a fumble, but just the way the defense was able to force a quick 3-and-out, get it right back to A&M with a chance to win the game. It was eerily similar, and it was impressive, just the response and just the way that entire game played out, especially late.
Zach Calzada picked off ones, 3 touchdowns, 285 through the air, 21 of 31. And as you mentioned, I don't know that it really captured it on television, but I thought that was an impressive throw as well to Anais Smith, because even though he gained separation just because of the pressure, the hit that he took while delivering, but also throwing basically, it seemed close to the far hash across the field, and had to drop it in, had to have enough zip and enough power, but at the same time, he had to have some trajectory or he would have thrown it out of bounds. So he laid it right in there.
Yeah, his arm talent is super impressive, and even on a throw earlier in the game that ended up being incomplete, I think it fell. I forget who nearly got to it, but I might have been Anais Smith as well. The throw that went 70 yards from the 35 for A&M all the way down to basically the end zone on the run. His arm talent is just pretty impressive. And that throw he made, and just to touch on it, he kind of got enough air under it and left enough for Anais Smith to get in. And he just looked like a more confident quarterback. And especially in the first half, the way he came out was decisive and got A&M off to a great start. He just looked in a great rhythm. And we've obviously talked the last couple of weeks about his struggles, and so I think he deserves a lot of credit because he had taken a lot of criticism, and to come deliver a performance like that, I think earned a lot of respect from A&M fans.
I don't want to discount the pressure that this team faced going into this game, but at the same time, I liken it to a couple other teams in different situations across the country that maybe because of the short of expectations performance the couple weeks before, already losing games that they weren't supposed to lose, maybe they just kind of played freer, just being such a heavy underdog and everyone expecting them to lose. Maybe they just cut it loose and said, hey, let's go for it.
Yeah, I think that's certainly part of it. And there was a lot at stake on Saturday night. We talked before, obviously, about all the recruits that were in town, and so that was it was a big night that they had to put forward a good performance. Getting a win, talking to a lot of people, they talked about it being the best game they've ever been to. But I think for Jimbo Fisher, he's, sometimes it's tough to really believe what they're saying as time is going along. But he had talked the past couple of weeks that he liked the direction practice had been heading. And that was the big thing he said yesterday as well is, learn why we won this game, learn how the way we practiced and the way we're locked in. And so I think that was a big thing going into next week is to kind of take that same sort of focus that they had in practice, same intensity, and carry it forward to the rest of the year. And you're right. I think that maybe they played a little freer, a little looser, and they just got a little bit of confidence going. And I think that made a big difference.
Folks, we got Andrew Hattersley on the line from Gig'em 247 Sports. Andrew provides post-game here after every Texas A&M game right here at the Voice of College Football SEC. Andrew, of course, writes for one of the industry standards, 247 Sports, so he knows what he's talking about. Join him for post-game. Bring your comments, your questions, your debate topics, anything that you've got concerning Texas A&M football after each and every game right here on the SEC channel, and hopefully soon to the Texas A&M channel. Still trying to work out some technical difficulties there. Andrew, it's just psychologically, it's an interesting situation to break down because now we've got a situation where, was this just a special night? Did they just put it all together one night and they're going to revert to being what was probably headed toward a 7-5, 8-4 type season? Because if they lost to Arkansas in Mississippi State, they'd have toss-up games, I'm sure, against Ole Miss, Auburn, others. Or is this a bit of an epiphany, a breakthrough? They found something here. Not that everything just automatically is going to fall into place and all their issues are resolved, but we're just going to have to wait and see. I don't expect you to have the answer to this. None of us know. But whether this is going to be truly a breakthrough for this program and Jimbo Fisher and what he's trying to build. Yeah,
I tend to believe that we're going to see a lot better from A&M in the second half. That's just my gut. This team has kind of ridden the roller coaster, obviously, the past couple of weeks. It does change the complexion of their season a little bit, though, because I think we talked about it last week that you're sitting at 3-3, and then kind of where do you go from there with Missouri coming up, which should be an opportunity to keep some of the offensive momentum going, because Missouri has really struggled defensively. I think that's a way to put it nicely. And then you come back with South Carolina, and so if you're A&M and you can head into the bye week at 6-2, I think that's going to give them a lot of momentum to then regroup, come out of the bye week. Tough couple of games against Ole Miss and Auburn coming out of the bye week, and then Prairie View, A&M, and LSU to finish the year. And I'm not sure it's hard to predict what LSU is going to look like by the end of the year, just with everything going on with that program. That's a tough program to really gouge right now. They could come out, guns blazing at the end of the year because it'll be their last game of the year and all that. But for A&M, one of the things that I think kind of gives me a feeling that this might be, the start of a better second half of the year is if you think about the offensive line and just how banged up it's been through the first part of the year. They're getting healthier now. They got back Layden Robinson, which I think has been a huge boost just the past 2 weeks, and with the way the offensive line has played better, I think he's a big reason for that. I think you're seeing Bryce Foster and Reuben Fothery get more comfortable. I thought Reuben Fothery played really, really well against Alabama. I think he should be in there now the rest of the year, to be honest. The way he's played, and he's only going to continue to get better the more experience he gets. And then moving Kenyon Green back inside the guard, and I think that certainly helped as well. And it's just given them. I think they're starting to find a combination of guys that they can go with on the offensive line. They can protect Zach Calzada. And I think this will give him a lot of confidence just moving forward to make the throws and settle in. His confidence has got to be sky high. Now this team has to focus. And that was one thing Jimbo Fisher talked about this week, is just like Nick Saban talked about last week being a trap game for Texas A&M. In some regards, this is a trap game for Texas A&M to refocus, regroup, come right back. he said yesterday, I think he was tired about talking about Alabama. I don't know if that's true, but he talked about refocusing for Missouri, and so this is a really important one to get. And I think it does. I think we'll see a better A&M in the second half, and should be getting back some receivers at some point, which should help as well. And I think this is a team that's now starting to find what they need to do to be successful and can still have a great year. They're 4-2 is obviously a lot different than 3-3. Shoot, if Alabama loses one more time and they win out, then they're suddenly looking at a road to Atlanta, the SEC championship game. I don't know. We'll have to see if Alabama bounces back against Mississippi State. I'm sure that I'm expecting them to. But it just changes the outlook of the season and what A&M needs to do going forward.
Andrew, you had mentioned Jimbo Fisher commenting on social media, something he doesn't believe in and doesn't take part in, but of course his players do, so he's got to manage it. And now we've got a mindset where, you can get too many pats on the back after a situation like this, after weeks and weeks and weeks of underachieving and then being criticized and torn down and having to kind of keep your confidence up. So it works in both directions. And, college football fans turn on a dime like that. So, and they can certainly believe everything's headed in the right direction automatically now, and facing a team that's been giving up yardage and points like nobody's business in Missouri, that just everything's going to be fine. But just about Jimbo Fisher's, managing of the mindset of this team.
Yeah, so we learned yesterday, obviously, that the only ways you can reach Jimbo Fisher are through text message and message. He made that abundantly clear. His message about social media, he's talked about it before, about how he just hates social media. He knows it's here. He knows it's a part of the business. Knows what, there's a lot of kids, but to his point, a lot of kids live on social media. And so just as the last 2 weeks, he's tried to hammer home the message to ignore it and ignore some of the, negativity and the criticism that you're getting, and focus on the task at hand. It's really the same message this week: is ignore the praise, and obviously take it, and you'll take success, but just like you ignored social media last week, ignore it this week after a high, and focus on what you need to do to win again. And so, yeah, he's definitely, if he's made one thing clear this year and over the past couple of years, he's not a huge fan of social media and all that, but it's a part of the business, and yeah, you've got to be able to block it out and lock in on what you need to do to be successful, both when things are going good and when things are going bad. And I think that's kind of the way they look at it. It's a part of the business for everybody, not just players. Even reporters sometimes get fans that are not happy with something they write or say or anything like that, and you just have to be able to block it out and continue moving on with what you need to do.
And of course, if Jimbo Fisher was on social media, he would have known how much his comments back in May caused an uproar about what he had stated. I've got it right here. We're going to beat his arse when he's there, talking about Nick Saban, of course. Then a few weeks later, heck yes, I think we're going to beat them. That's why we're here. They're the standard. We have to learn to beat them. What's funny is, of course, the response was mixed at the time. Some people get all up in arms and crazy about you shouldn't say things like that, and other people like it because they're like, you're basically stating your goals and just saying, hey, we're going after them. And then, of course, even before the game's played, people assume they're going to get hammered by Alabama. So it started to get more attention in the couple weeks leading to Alabama to say, it doesn't Jimbo Fisher look stupid because they're going to get killed by Alabama. And then he goes out and delivers. So it's just kind of a funny roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it's been funny to watch that whole thing. And he did talk about that this week. And he just laughed, and him and Nick Saban are obviously friends, going back to their time working together. But he just basically said, that was kind of his competitive side coming out, and it would be the same way probably for Nick Saban, as he doesn't really love being told he can't do something or can't achieve something. And so that he said that was kind of what prompted his reaction. It was, and obviously he knew about the comments and knew that he had a check to cash of sorts. And yeah, in the past couple of weeks, it was with A&M and the way they were playing, it was kind of, you had one of those reactions thinking, boy, if Alabama gets up in this game, they could easily run up the score and send a message back to Jimbo Fisher after that game. But he deserves a lot of credit. And it's one of those things, beating Alabama, that's been a mindset. I saw one of the A&M players tweet that he came to A&M to beat Alabama, to beat a program like Alabama. And I remember having a conversation. I was just thinking about this last night, that I remember having a conversation this past fall with a high school senior with his parents, and they were talking about how just last year, even though they went 9-1, and what they saw from the team, the thought process among that class was, we could be the group of players that help knock off Alabama. We could be that group that's the missing piece for what they need to do to beat Alabama. And sure enough, that same recruit was the one who tweeted out, I came to Texas A&M to beat Alabama. So there's certainly a lot of kids that kind of knew what the next step for him was. It's something that A&M players have embraced, to go out and beat. And it's not a disrespectful way. It's not anything like that. But as Jimbo Fisher said, in the past couple of years, going back for the past decade and a half, pretty much, Alabama has been the standard, and you have to be able to meet that standard. And if you're not trying to beat them, then you're kind of settling for second. And I don't think that's the way Jimbo Fisher operates. And so, it's one of those things that they're gonna push to knock off Alabama, and they did that. And they deserve a lot of credit for their response. But yeah, it's just kind of something that they've embraced, and an opportunity and challenge that they know isn't easy. They know they had to play a good game, and they still made mistakes and ended up winning the game. And it was funny how it all came full circle. And I saw a picture afterwards of it had that comment that Jimbo Fisher had said after the summer, and then a picture next to it of Jimbo Fisher with his hands raised in the air after the game-winning field goal. And it was just funny to see that whole storyline be revisited.
Absolutely. Texas A&M takes on Missouri in Columbia. Andrew Hattersley on the line from Gig'em 247 Sports. So please join him there, and also join him right here at the Voice of College Football after each and every Texas A&M game. Just want to bring up here that, as you alluded to in the previously, nobody paid a whole lot of attention to Missouri and North Texas, but the Missouri defense gave up almost just under 500 yards of total offense a week after giving up 62 points to Tennessee and 683 yards of total offense. Once you get close to 700 yards of total offense, those games are like near record performances. I don't know that anybody's rung up 800 yards. So once you get into that 700-yard category, you're looking at like conference record type range. So Missouri is getting shredded by the week, and Texas A&M goes up there and can't let down, but has an opportunity to really get the offense clicking.
Yeah, and I think if you look at their I think if you're a Missouri fan and you're looking at this game, one of the things that has to be most troubling is Missouri's given up close to over 288 yards per game on the ground, which is actually obviously a huge strength of Texas A&M and what they're trying to do with Isaiah Spiller and Devon Achane. And so for me, that's what makes this a really bad matchup for Missouri is A&M's going to run it right at their weakness. And we saw last week, if you give, and I've seen it obviously in high school and all that, and we saw it last year, but if you give Devon Achane just a window, I mean, he's gone just in terms of speed and his game-breaking ability is pretty crazy. So they're gonna have to find something running the ball or defending the run if they want to be able to stay in this game, because A&M's just going to run it right at them, and it's going to be on them to stop it. And so far, they haven't been able to stop anybody. And so If they can't stop A&M on the ground, that's going to open up some of the play action games, some of the RPO stuff. And so I think there's a lot offensively for A&M to take advantage of, and it starts with the run game. And I mean, giving up 288 yards on the ground is just crazy.
Yeah, Achane continues to be the Swiss Army knife. 3 catches, 45 yards, 7 carries, 34 yards. Missouri is second to last in the nation in yardage given up, just a tick under 500 yards per game average. Number 122 in the nation in scoring defense. So it's been a rough ride for Eli Drinkwitz in his second season there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that comes down to sometimes just it's somewhat of a mindset and being disciplined, and they've really struggled, and it opened my eyes and to be fair, Tennessee's putting up points on a lot of folks. They've really,
Yep.
They're going to sneak up on, I think they're going to, that game with Ole Miss this weekend is going to be really interesting. The amount of points in that game is just going to be crazy. But yeah, they just have really, really struggled defensively, and it's forced them to be in uncomfortable positions offensively. And but A&M's going to have to come ready to go, and especially running the ball and bring that toughness, bring that aggressiveness, and I think there's some areas they can exploit those.
All right, Texas A&M taking on Mizzou in Columbia. The Aggies looking to go to 5-2. Andrew, we appreciate you stopping by as always, and everybody join Andrew on Gig'em 247 and also right here, the voice of college football, for postgame of Texas A&M and Missouri.
Always appreciate it, Mark. Thank you.
Okay.